Greetings, students, and welcome to this episode of The Professor Travel. I am your host, The Professor Travel, coming to you from Orange County, California. This is the website, the vlog, and the podcast that you come to in order to learn more about different travel destinations. This is where you come to discuss them as a community. Hopefully, this will inspire you to travel more and enjoy life more. Now, you can reach me on a variety of different social media platforms, but start off first with my website, which is at theprofessortravel.com. On YouTube, on Facebook, and now on TikTok, you can find me there at The Professor Travel. If you're an Instagrammer, find me there at the_professor_travel. If you're a Twitter, then you can find me there at The Professor TR1. I don't even know how to say it. It's like if you're on Twitter, whatever. And then if you're a blogger, you can find me there at theprofessortravel.blogspot.com. Today, I have a returning professor with me. My visiting professor today is Ishaan Gokhale. How you doing, Ishaan?
Hello.
Very nice to have you back, sir. How you been?
Been good. Been
It's
good.
been busy times here.
Haven't been traveling much, but that's the way it is.
I know we're stuck in the age of COVID right now, but thankfully you've got a lot of information to share, which is awesome, and we really appreciate that. Now, for those of my students who have not seen any of your previous videos, can you kind of go over a little bit about your background, just a snippet about your education and some of the places that you've traveled?
Yeah. Um, so all of those things can be summed up in one word, which is travel. Um, I've mentioned in my previous videos that I've learned more from traveling than I've ever learned from any amount of college and school and all my educational background, quote unquote educational.
You are you
Uh,
are you are the wandering Ishaan.
Uh, so travel is just incredible. It teaches you so much about different places, different cultures, foods, people. You learn so much, and it's just it cannot be compared with anything you can read in books. Um, so uh, yeah, I mean that's. I mean I've traveled 7 continents. I don't know how many countries. I haven't done a count yet. I'm sorry. Maybe next time I'll do a count before
Well,
we.
I think you lost count in 2011 or 2012 or something. You were at 50 or something at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get a count for you next time if you do one more. One
Oh,
more.
sure, absolutely. And I definitely want to continue to do these because you've got just amazing travel adventures.
Um,
I was going to ask, so in this particular video, we were going to focus a little bit more on a trip that you did a couple of years ago,
mhm.
where you started in Kathmandu and worked your way up to Tibet. Is that correct?
Right. It
Uh,
was actually like a group, a bus tour kind of. Not me. I wasn't doing the driving, but
that's
I
okay. You
wish
can
I
still
was.
try.
I wish I was. It's a beautiful
Uh,
road.
I don't know. Traveling on some of those roads can be a little bit of a sketchy thing when you're in
Mm,
some other countries, but maybe you can cure me of that. So,
mm.
talk to me a little bit about how the planning for this kind of a trip went.
Yeah. So this was actually part of a much longer trip that I was on. I was out for a long time. I was actually in India before this, visiting my parents. My parents are from here in India, and I had a uh, another trip booked in China, like another group tour, group package tour kind of thing. So between India and China, I thought, hey, why not go through Nepal and Tibet on the way? So I started researching. Uh, there were dozens of websites offering tours like that. Like you said, I was also a little bit apprehensive, a little bit nervous about going to some of these places.
Hmm.
Uh, it was my first time ever in China, definitely first time in Tibet, part of China. Um, so uh, basically, I found this one deal. It was a very good, like, 10, 12 days trip uh, for really, really cheap money.
Mm,
um, uh, so I think I spent between $500 to $1,000 on that trip for like a 10 to 15 day trip.
wow,
And
nice.
well, nice, but I realized you get what you pay for.
Uh-oh. Okay, there's
Uh,
a huge story coming. So, hang on, students. We're gonna get this one in. So there are some cost savings involved here, but unfortunately, as you may mention, sometimes you get what you pay for.
yeah.
Now, did you make these arrangements while you were actually visiting your parents, or was it
No,
something?
it was already done. So I had made the arrangements a few months before that.
Okay.
Um, and because basically I had booked the China trip a few months before that, I had to get the visa for China and all that stuff.
Ah, that's true.
So this kind of fit in between. Like it was my dad's birthday just before this trip, uh, and so I had gone to see him, and in between it was a nice gap. You know, oh, perfect. The time matches up. I'll go through Nepal, go through Tibet, go to China, and then start the China tour.
And you've never been to either one of those countries previously,
No,
correct?
never before this. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So what did the visa process look like while you were going through this in
So
order to go to those places?
For Nepal, it is a visa on arrival,
Okay,
which is very nice. You just land at the airport, you fill out you give them the money, you fill out the form, they stamp your passport. That's it.
that's easy.
Um, and Then for China, it was a little bit strange because Tibet has its own, or actually now I'm not so sure, but this trip was in 2011. At that time, they had their own. You had to get a permit for traveling within Tibet, uh, outside of the Chinese visa.
Okay,
And this tour company, they said that they will provide all of that, you know, for you.
okay,
So you don't need to worry about getting the travel permit and stuff. They will do it all as a group package for everyone on the trip. Uh, but they also said that if you are going beyond Lhasa, this trip ended in Lhasa, Tibet, the capital, and they said if you're going beyond Lhasa into the mainland China, then yes, you will need to arrange for that because our trip permit is only valid for those particular days,
okay.
right?
That makes
So
sense then.
yeah, so I
And
had to
then,
get a separate visa for China from that date onwards for the next 14 days, as it turned out,
okay.
which was actually for a 17-day trip in China. I had a 14-day visa, but
And
that's
we're
it.
gonna and we're gonna talk about that at a later time because I definitely want to get into China. But this, just Nepal and Tibet, is going to be enough to talk about
Yeah,
during this time.
definitely. Hmm.
So, talk to me a little bit about what the pre-packing process is going to look like for this. Like, I
Right.
don't know if it's like, is it always going to be snowing there? I mean, like, is it always going to be
No.
frigid, or like, what are the things that you're going to be packing for this
Right.
trip?
So fortunately, I have a friend who's from Nepal originally, my ex-coworker, and he told me that if you want to go there, the best time of the year to go there weather-wise is October,
Okay,
um, because by then the monsoons have gone away and
okay.
the skies will be blue. And if your objective is to see the mountains, then which was my objective, then definitely you don't want any clouds in the sky. So
So were you actually in India in October?
I was in India in October and starting end of October into Nepal.
So were you able to be there during Diwali?
No, not that time. No,
Oh, that's too bad. Oh man, that would
no.
be so
I mean,
fun.
I've grown up there, so it's
I want to sometime. I want to someday do like Holi and Diwali at the same. If I can actually get in, because I think those would be like amazing events to go to. But
yeah,
again,
yeah. You should definitely experience both.
awesome.
Holi will be in springtime, Diwali in like October, November. So you should stay there the whole time.
But it's going to be very crowded
Uh,
during those times, I imagine, and the
yeah,
plane flights are just going to be crazy.
yeah.
But that's probably why you may have been able to get a fairly decent deal just after that,
Um,
if you were beyond that time frame.
yeah, I don't know the reason for it, but uh, it just worked out. I mean, I found it. It was a good price, so I just booked it.
Okay,
And they were doing the Tibet permit, which was a huge deal for me. I had no idea how to go about that, so they took care of all of that.
perfect. So you're in the sweet spot then. You're
Hmm.
right after the monsoon season, but just before it gets into the cold season.
Right,
Okay, excellent.
right.
And
Now that doesn't mean it wasn't cold. It was cold because we were up that high, but nothing like like dead winter freezing, that kind of thing. You know.
excellent. And so you're packing, I guess, for like a brisker climate, but
Yeah,
not like frigid weather out.
correct,
Not like
correct,
your not like your Antarctic trip or anything like
correct. So the previous photo that you showed, the jacket I was wearing, that was all I needed.
that. Okay,
Um, and I did have gloves. I don't think I ever actually wore the gloves because I was taking photos too with my camera and stuff, so I had to take the gloves off anyway.
okay,
So it was fine. It wasn't bad at all.
okay. So let's talk. How did you like? What airport did you leave from in order to get over to here?
So I flew from actually my parents were in Bangalore, India, South India.
Okay.
So I went from there to Delhi, and then the connecting flight from Delhi to Kathmandu.
Did you say Bangalore or
Uh,
Mangalore?
Bangalore, B.
Okay, B. Okay, got it.
Uh,
And so, how long is that flight?
so Bangalore to Delhi is like 2 hours. Delhi to Kathmandu is less than 2 hours.
That's not bad at all.
Um, Maybe something around there.
I assume they dropped you
Um,
off. You didn't have to take a taxi or anything like that, or
no, so Oh yeah, at the Bangalore airport, right? That's fine. In Kathmandu airport, there was like the group had arranged. We sent them our flight arrival time, and they arranged to pick up to go to the hotel and stuff like that. So
Okay.
in Kathmandu, I had no problem.
Okay. How were the flights?
They were fine, no problems.
Nothing crazy?
Yeah, it's like a domestic flight, right? It's okay.
Because I know I had interviewed my nephew a few months ago in reference to a trip that he took to Bhutan, and he said like the
I want to go
winds
there.
just yeah. There's a lot of arrangements that you have to do in order to especially go there. But just in order to be able to get into Bhutan, you have to like the flight the pilots have to be expert pilots in order to get in there because the winds are so crazy in order to
Yeah,
just fly into that area.
yeah.
So
You need
yeah,
a special permit to land in some of the airports over there.
exactly. So I don't know if you had any pre-vacation destinations. Like you didn't spend any time. Well, okay, actually,
Well,
yeah, you did.
there was no concept of pre-vacation because the whole thing I was
You're staying
out
with
of.
your parents and stuff like
Yeah,
that in
yeah.
India. So, but then you flew to Kathmandu. How much time did you spend in Kathmandu?
A couple of days.
Okay, so
It was just to relax. I spent one day walking around the town. Uh, they had a. This was before the earthquake. They had a big earthquake a couple of
yeah,
years after that.
I remember that.
Uh, so this was just before, and I went to that main square. All the beautiful carvings of the wooden carvings and temples and everything. Saw that.
How large is Kathmandu?
Uh,
Did you say?
it's pretty big. It's more than big. It's like not very well planned out, not very well laid out.
Hmm.
So it takes a while to get your bearings and know where you're going and stuff like that.
Is it
Uh,
spread out like something like? I mean, like
yeah,
size-wise, would you say it's like the size of like a small city in Orange County? Would you say it's like the size of Los Angeles? Like how?
uh, I yeah, I mean it would be like the LA metro area.
Wow. Okay, that's very
It's pretty
sizable.
spread out. I mean it's pretty spread out all over.
Okay, very cool. And you spent a couple of days there. I assume you got some souvenirs or something kind of fun at least while you're there. Hopefully.
No.
No. Okay.
When
You're
you're
like,
on a long
I
trip,
have my
you don't
backpack, and
yeah,
that's it.
you don't buy souvenirs when you're on a long trip.
Well, it's funny that you mention that because it's like I know people who pack for a long period of time and they bring like multiple suitcases,
Hmm.
and then there are those people who will take a month-long trip and they only have a backpack and that's
Yeah,
it.
that's me.
Yeah. See, my friend, you are so much more efficient at packing than I am. But then again, you've been to many more countries than I have. I've already been to 23, and I thought that was a lot until I met you, and it's like, okay, well,
No, I mean
that's not a lot.
this was a much longer trip. I was traveling a long time. Um, so
It was
yeah,
kind of fun though.
I
It
don't
sounds
want
like
to weigh me down. Like
yeah. No, I understand
stuff
that.
weighs you down.
While you were in Kathmandu, what kind of accommodations did you have while you were there?
Very good. It was like a 3 4 star hotel.
Okay.
Uh, Very nice place. You know, I, I I did not write down the name of the hotel or anything like that, but uh, yeah, it was all part of this package tour, right? So they put us up in the hotel,
Okay.
um, and yeah, it was wonderful.
And actually I'm going to forward to the next slide here for
Hmm.
my people that are on the podcast. There's actually two things on the next slide of pictures. One is an itinerary map of the different destination locations that you're going to along this trip, and the other one is a picture of someone pointing to Mount Everest on this. So bravo. So okay, so let's take a look at each of these specific points. So point A, you're in Kathmandu.
Hmm.
um, it's Nylon Town. Is that correct? That's like right
Uh,
outside the area there.
yeah. So the A, B, C, D that I have put on those checkpoint the points over there on the
Yeah, on
map.
the map. Yeah.
Those were the nights that we stayed in those towns.
Okay.
So in between is the day trip.
Okay.
Um,
So then you're leaving from Kathmandu in order to get to Nylon Town. Is that
mhm,
correct?
right.
Okay. And
And
it doesn't look like it's that far, but how far is it? Do you
no,
think?
it took a whole day to drive there.
Oh, did okay.
And so here's where I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. I know what you're going to ask me next. So um,
Am I now? Okay.
one of the interesting things that happened on this trip. So we were told that all of your Tibet permits, everything, China visa, Tibet permit will be all handled by us, the tour agency.
Yes.
Um, and
Oh, you
no,
did know
no,
where I
you
was
don't
going
have to
with
worry
this.
about a thing. Everything is fine. Just get to Nepal, and so the way it worked was the day before we were supposed to leave. Okay,
Hmm.
uh, that morning, the guy came to our hotel rooms and said, "I need your passport." Because we're going to arrange all this China visa and stuff, right?
Okay.
Uh, this is the day before, okay, 24 hours before departure.
Hmm.
Um, so fine, fill out the paperwork, gave the passport, give. I don't think I gave the money. The money was already paid at that time.
Okay.
Um, and um, so he said, "Fine, we're just collecting everyone's passports right now, and tomorrow morning on the bus, I will hand your passport back to you."
Oh, I would be very
Uh,
nervous about handing over my passport, but that's just me. Okay, go on.
yeah, exactly. And guess what happened?
No, I have no
Now,
idea. Why don't you tell me what happens?
so next morning we had a
Oh
5 a.m. departure schedule out of Kathmandu,
my gosh.
and there were 3 or 4 people on the bus who did not have their passports back. I was not one of them, fortunately, but those 3 or 4 people, those guys told them, "Don't worry, we are going to get you your passport back before we cross the border into China," which was happening on that day. Uh, yeah, we'll get you your passport back.
I
We
would
got it.
lose my mind if I didn't have that in my possession.
So these 4 people were actually sitting near me in the bus. You know, uh, so we started talking about this. Like they're feeling nervous. Like what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Uh, and throughout this whole trip, we actually became pretty good friends over the course of the next 7 days. But as it turned out, everything was fine. Uh,
Gosh,
Before
though.
we crossed the border into China, these guys they got their passports back. They got it was basically a piece of paper, which is a permit to enter Tibet.
Okay, so it's
Uh,
basically acting as a visa, like a
yeah,
gate, like
yeah,
an intermittent visa.
and everything was fine. They got everything back. So, but
Talk about
it
talk about
was
just in time,
touch
though,
and go. Yeah,
man.
exactly.
Oh, I have anxiety over stuff like that. I'm a planner, and
Yeah,
so I like to plan things out like months in
yep.
advance. And if I don't
And
not have my visa, I will flip out.
yeah, and this was just the first thing. There's something else that happened after crossing the border.
Oh, good, because that's
Now
not enough stress. Okay.
that affected all of us. All There were 60 people, by the way, on the whole group.
Oh gosh.
Um, there was one bus, 60 people, that was going out to the border, which was like the Nepali side of this group tour. And we were told that there would be another bus waiting on the other side,
Mhm.
which was the China part of it. Different guides on both sides, different, you know, staff on both sides, all of that.
Sure.
So we went up to the border. It's right at the border. There's a city in China on the China side called Zhangmu. Just before that, they said, okay, now you walk across the border bridge over there. There's a bridge that connects, Nepal to China.
Okay.
Um, and we go across the border. We get to the other side. They said, don't worry about it. The guide is going to come to you. Like, how's the guide going to come to us? We are like part of 10,000 people crossing this bridge right now.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
uh, uh, but whatever. So uh, we actually did see the bus with the group name on it.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Thank
went
God.
over there, and the guy goes, "Oh, I did not realize you have 60 people on this tour. This bus can only handle 30." So what I have done is I have called like 15 cabs for the rest of you. As you're coming out of the immigration, why don't you guys, 4 of you, get in this cab and go to Zangmu? Okay, next four, get in this cab, go to Zangmu. you know,
So he's not aware that there's more than 30 people, but he's got enough to get an entire fleet of taxis. Okay, that seems a little bit sketchy right there.
it was like we did not know what was going on. Like I'm like,
Oh, that would give me
just
such. Oh.
exactly, and all of us were like that. Like, what is this? But like I said, you get what you pay for.
Oh man. And, okay, so in your itinerary here, did
Mhm.
that occur after
It was on day
Nile?
one
Okay, so this is all day one. So this is even before you're getting to Nylon Town. That's
before
correct.
Nylon Town.
Okay.
We get to Zangmu around 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. Before that, there was a checkpoint, another checkpoint on the border.
Okay.
I mean, past the border, and we were not allowed to go through. All of our cabs were just there before
Oh
the trip,
man.
and they didn't. The guard would not let us through. They said, your guide has to be here. If you're all traveling in a group, you should all be in a group. Why are you in cabs?
Funny that you mentioned that. The guy said that he did not plan for this. So
So we were
I,
we were getting pissed off by this time. I mean, we were like
yeah,
totally losing it. Um, but that's all part
I,
of the trip,
I
all
can
part
see
of the
this is gonna be a
adventure.
negative Yelp review right away. Steaming mad, grr, as we write this down. Okay. Anyways, all right. So you're getting through the checkpoint. I assume everything went
In the
okay.
end, all's well that ends well. It was fine.
Okay. So, um, so now we move on to Nylon Town. Talk to
Yeah.
me a little bit about Nylon Town.
Nyalem, I believe, is at 13,000 feet, 13,000 feet elevation.
Okay.
Uh, before, when I booked this trip, they said on the website itself, on the um, group tour, their website, they said that they recommend not doing it this way. They recommend going the other way from Tibet into Nepal
Did they say why?
because of the elevation gain going the way that we did.
Okay.
So Kathmandu is like, I don't know, something like 5,000 feet elevation.
Mhm.
First night we are up at 13,000 feet. We are sleeping up there. Uh, Second daytime we are up
Actually,
to
what were the accommodations like over in that area?
Nalam was a hostel. Yeah, it was like bunk beds.
Oh, good.
Um, yeah,
Okay.
no air conditioner, no heater, no restroom. Sorry, restroom was there, but no bathroom.
Thank you.
No bathroom.
Okay.
So no showers or anything like that.
Uh,
No breakfast. Um,
hmm.
Very, very basic accommodations, but at the same time, actually pretty good considering that you were in Tibet. Um,
So it's
uh,
about it's more about the adventure at this
yes.
point. And again, like to what you said earlier, you get what
Mhm.
you pay for. So
Right.
there we go.
Uh, but from Kathmandu Hotel, it was definitely a big step down, that's for sure.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
It's almost like you're in yurt territory almost. So I'm like,
really were. The next day, it was exactly that. Yes.
oh, are you
Um,
serious?
it, I mean, the restrooms are holes in the ground. It's Tibet. It's
Oh, too fun.
uh, wilderness, real wilderness.
Okay, then. So now we're on our way to your next destination, which is
Yeah,
Lhotse, I
yeah.
think.
So that was the second night. Uh, that day from Nyalam to Lhasa, we got the second bus, by the way, that morning. So we had two buses now.
Okay.
Uh, for
Thank you. It doesn't seem like a big
uh,
ask, but I mean, I guess in that part of the world, like
it would
it's
be,
not.
yeah, it would be difficult. Uh, Nyalam to Lhasa, the road goes up to I think something like 5,600 meters, uh, about uh, 17, 18,000 feet, something like that.
Okay.
Uh, and out of the 60 of us in the two buses, 58 of us got altitude sickness.
Oh, really? So talk to me a little bit about how that
Um,
was. It like cramping? Was it like
yeah,
headaches? Was it like
headaches,
okay?
loss of temper, definitely.
Oh,
Uh, Mostly because of what happened the previous day. We were all just losing it.
I believe it.
Um,
I don't know if
uh,
that's for altitude sickness. I think that people are just getting angry at this point.
but altitude definitely contributed to that, and I realized that because I was getting upset for very small things in the end.
Mhm.
Um,
It's oxygen
and
deprivation.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
basically what it is.
Um, uh, you lose your appetite. You, of course, it takes more effort to walk to do anything physical.
And you're probably wheezing
Um,
a little bit because of the lack of the oxygen in the air.
yeah, yeah. But the views were fantastic. The photo on the right is taken on that day, the first full day in Tibet.
And for
Um,
those that are on the podcast who can't see this, this is a picture of a number of mountains in the region, and someone, not necessarily you who's pointing, but someone's pointing to Mount Everest
yeah,
there.
yeah. So the guy who was sitting next to me on the bus. Yeah, I was taking photos, and uh, he said, you're not going to recognize this out of this range. Which one is Mount Everest? Because they all look like the tallest mountain.
Well, these are
Um,
days away, but I mean, you're seeing the size of these places
yeah.
are just they look very close, but they're not. They're
No,
actually
no.
quite some ways away.
Right, right. And we were at around 14, 15, 16, something like that, 15, 16,000 feet up. Mount Everest, as you may know, is close to 29, more than 29,000 feet.
Hmm.
So this is looking 14,000 feet up. That's the middle one. That's the tallest. That's Mount Everest.
Yeah, and I
And
think you can't even like. There's different steps of in just trying to be able to get up to Mount Everest. I think you, in some cases, when you get up higher, you need oxygen support in order to be
oh,
able
definitely, yeah.
to
I mean,
survive.
some people have climbed it without oxygen, but yeah, you do need oxygen to
It's
get up there.
very,
Yeah.
very tough. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. And your accommodations that specific night in Lhotse, that's kind of, you were saying like a yurt type situation or
No, it
something?
was slightly better than Nyalum,
Okay.
but still no restrooms. Sorry, no showers.
Okay.
Uh, uh, the Also like bunk beds style kind of place. We had like
So like a
five, six
hostel.
people in a room. Yeah, hostel type.
Okay.
Um, we had like five, six people in one room. And that night there was one lady in my room who started, throwing up. She suffered a lot that day.
Yeah. It's
Um,
probably it's definitely the
um,
oxygen and
yeah.
the altitude sickness that's
Mhm.
going. She's just not
So
used to that.
yeah,
How
but
far, just out of curiosity, how far was Nilam from Lhotse?
so let me. I'll answer that question another way, if I might. Uh, the people who we ended up on this tour in Lhasa, uh, there was option after Lhasa for everyone how they're going to return back home.
Okay.
Some people flew out, some people like me went on further. There were those people also. There were some people who drove all the way back on the same road, and that journey from Lhasa all the way back to Kathmandu was 1 day for them. They drove
So
the
it's an
whole thing
entire
back in
day.
1 day.
It's an entire day journey in
Yeah,
order to get
nonstop,
there.
nonstop.
And
So each
how
of
fast would you
these,
say your vehicle is moving?
oh, quite fast. So the road was actually very, very nice. Like for example, I've been to Alaska where a lot of these roads are like gravel, dirt roads.
Hmm.
Um, this was all paved. It was
Okay.
like a you know 1 lane each way, 2 lane highway,
Okay.
uh, completely 100% paved all the way through.
Okay. And are
Uh,
there these small highways, like 1 or 2 lanes, or are these like
no,
larger
one
than
one
that?
lane, one
Oh,
lane
one
each
lane.
way.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's scary, but okay, that's fine.
No, I mean there's nobody there. There's hardly anyone there.
Okay.
Um, and the scenery is amazing. I mean that's what I came there for. It's just beautiful mountains, snow, ice,
Yeah,
the
and
monasteries.
you tend to go to a lot of places that are much more rural, that are out there. I mean, for goodness sakes, we've already talked about Antarctica and Siberia, so I mean,
Yeah,
it's definitely.
I love nature. The It's just so beautiful over there, especially.
Ironically, all of these places that we've talked about have been extremely cold that you're talking about, at least thus far. So
True. I prefer the cold over the heat,
I
but
guess so. And so so our next destination
Shigatse.
after, yeah, poor.
So all along this way, there were quite a few Buddhist monasteries that we visited.
Mhm.
There were quite a few like the viewpoints like this. We just stopped along the road. We stopped sometimes on the road. Got off the bus. The bus is in the middle of the highway.
And
Nobody cares.
you can like go into the
Yeah,
monasteries, so like make a donation or just something
yeah,
like that.
exactly. We visited those monasteries. Uh, we didn't actually get a chance to talk to any of the monks until we actually got to Lhasa in the end.
Okay.
Uh, uh, but all of these places, I mean, they're just amazing. You see, it's just beautiful.
I had an opportunity to go to a couple of different Buddhist monasteries when I was
Mhm.
in or just outside of Bangkok,
Okay.
and it was really lovely because, and for my students that are out there, you can get a look at a lot of these wonderful, wonderful historic places that have been there for quite some time. And all they really ask for is maybe a small
Right.
donation. That's usually recirculated back into the community.
Hmm.
And maybe like you pay for like a little piece of incense that they can burn, or something else. How did the donations go where you were at? Did you just drop in
Uh,
some coins
yeah,
or like?
yeah. Basically,
Okay,
we just drop some money in.
that's nice. Okay, so after that day, you're on your way to the next destination, which is
Next,
Shingatse.
Shigatse.
Shigatse. Okay.
Uh, Shigatse was a nice place in terms of staying there. It's a slightly bigger town.
Okay.
We had showers, although they were cold
Oh,
showers.
thank goodness. It's
Um,
something.
we each had our own room. That was nice.
Okay.
Um, it's, I mean, still fairly basic accommodations, but at least everything was there. Uh,
And how are you getting food along the way there? Is the
oh, there
tour
are
providing it
yeah,
for you? Okay.
yeah. So there are restaurants in each of those towns along the way.
Okay.
I think one day we had a packed lunch from the morning,
Oh,
like
you know,
sandwiches and stuff.
I should have asked you this. Do the buses that you're on have restrooms in the buses,
No,
or they do not have them?
no,
Okay, so if you're in the middle of nowhere and you say, I have to go to the restroom, what do
they
they
will
do?
actually stop for you.
And you're supposed to just on the side of the road, or like, what
Yeah,
is the situation?
yeah,
Okay,
hmm
good to know.
yeah.
I have a
Uh,
very small bladder, so I mean, for me,
well,
it's gonna be one of those things.
so many of these places along the way, especially on that first couple of days when we were not in like towns, uh, it many places they had actually like a rest area, what they call the rest area. Not
Okay,
not really, anything like in the U.S. Um, it's basically like a hole in the ground. You just go in there. Uh,
it is
one
what
of
it
the
is.
one of the fancier ones at least had four walls around it, so it was a little bit privacy.
Oh, that's good.
But and one of them, I sent you this photo earlier. There was so I went to this restroom. There's a hole where you're supposed to go,
Yep,
and I looked down and there's something moving down there. And I was like, "What is that?" And it turned out that was a yak underneath the hole where you're supposed to go. There is a yak walking around.
there was a yak under your bathroom.
Yes.
That's disgusting. But I mean, you know, it could have been worse. I mean, if it was like something slithering under there, I would be probably freaking out. I was in a situation where I had that exact same kind of bathroom when we went to a national park just outside of Bangkok,
Mhm.
and when I was there, they have that's a little bit different because they actually have these water hoses to flush yourself off with and stuff like that, which is great.
Mhm.
And there was a like a wasp.
Ooh,
There was like a wasp
hive?
trap. It was like a trap for wasps that they
Huh.
had inside the bathroom, and I was like, I saw one of the wasps like hanging on the outside of it, and I was like,
Oh wow.
you're supposed to be
I
like inside there. And I was like, I tapped it, and like a bunch of wasps came out. I'm like, okay, I'm leaving. Bye bye.
Whoa. Okay.
So yeah, that was not my thing. So yeah,
Wasps and even bees sometimes they scare me to death.
I understand. That got me to go
Other
really
animals
fast to
may
the
be
bathroom.
okay, but those no.
Nope. Yep, that was it.
Mm.
So, but again, the accommodations were at least it was kind of again like
They were
more of an
much better.
like an
Yeah.
upscale hostel.
Upscale hostel is a good way to describe it. Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
perfect.
and also more like water over there. Like there were lakes instead of all snow and ice.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Um, so that was nice. There was a river we crossed. We kept crossing multiple times along the way.
So you're getting a lot of the
Um,
majestic beauty
yeah.
of the area, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's really great. But there's just not a lot of city life
No.
or
No.
nothing
No.
really
No
elaborate.
cities until the end and Lhasa.
Okay. So the next location after this
Nyatse.
is, how do you say it?
Yantse.
Nancy.
I'm doing the closest I can.
Okay, but it's spelled Gyantse, and you
Yeah.
pronounce it almost like the lady's name Nancy, but
Yeah.
with a
Kind of.
G Y in
Yeah.
front of
Yeah.
Nancy. Okay.
Yeah. Uh, Again, it's the same as Shigat said. It was a town. They had a monastery there. We went to the monastery, spent some time, and each of these the driving now is like 2 to 3 hours each day of driving.
Okay, that's
Uh,
actually not bad considering the first day was a
yeah,
whole day of driving.
yeah, uh, and a lot more sightseeing, a lot more stops. That's the kind of the way the trip went towards the end.
What were the
Um,
accommodations like in Nancy?
Also good. Now the like a proper motel, um, you know
So now we're
individual
moving up to
rooms.
Motel 8 territory or something
Right,
like that.
right. Uh-huh.
That's better than nothing. Okay,
Mhm.
that's that. So we're starting to see some improvements. Okay,
Mhm.
that's good. That's good.
So
Food,
these
okay.
are these are relatively larger towns.
Okay.
I wouldn't call them cities, but they're okay. They have restaurants. We could walk around in the evening, go find food somewhere, on our own. Like it was all fine after that.
And how was the monastery there?
Beautiful. Every single monastery we went to was beautiful.
Excellent.
Um, one of them I actually did not feel like going to. I was just too exhausted, like too mentally exhausted, from all of this.
Mm.
So I just stayed in the motel. I didn't go on the trip on that one.
I don't blame you.
Um,
And you got to take care of yourself when you're going on a trip like this, especially when you're at certain elevations where the oxygen level
mhm.
can be depleted.
Yeah.
And
So
this,
about that, it was bad the first 2 days, for me at least.
Mhm.
Um, and everyone else, they had different, levels of how much they could tolerate. Uh, in one of these towns, I think it was in Shigatse, it I was feeling especially like, really headachy and stuff. So I went to the guide. The guide gave me directions to a place like a pharmacy, and uh, he said you can actually buy oxygen canisters from this pharmacy.
Hmm.
Uh, so I said, okay, fine. So a few of us, I told a few people on the tour. They were becoming good friends now. That's another advantage of something like this. Uh, and we all went out to this monastery. Sorry, in this pharmacy, and yeah, we each got a couple of oxygen canisters. Uh, really helped some of us.
I believe it.
Uh, uh, yeah, I mean those things are available now. This is like a town, so
Let's
there are shops and restaurants and stuff
I'd like
like
I'd
that.
like to take a pause for just a second and talk about environmental conditions. And this goes out to my students that are out there. Regardless of where you're at, whether it's in Colorado Springs, whether you're in the Andes, especially up at Machu Picchu, whether you're even in Dubrovnik, Croatia, where I had a challenge. You got to be careful of the environment and you got to respect it. Like when you're in Machu Picchu, I believe they'll give you, in some cases, they'll give you cocoa
Cocoa
leaves
leaves, yep.
in order to be able to acclimate a little bit to the climate. Like you were saying, they have oxygen canisters where you were at. Um, in Dubrovnik, where I was at, which is right on the coast, there's not elevation issues, but for us there, the thing that hit me the worst was sun. I was not protected from the sun, and I got sunstroke so bad that the next day I actually had to stay indoors and drink water so much. I missed out on an entire day. I missed out on an entire country because I had to because I was down for an entire day sleeping and just drinking water. So
Was this? Did you do the walk on the city wall all the way
I
around the
did.
wall?
That was exactly what
There's
happened.
no
I was
shade over there, right?
correct. And I didn't
Yeah.
bring a hat. I didn't I had like one little 12-ounce bottle of water, which is not
Yeah.
enough for
No.
that. And when the sun is beating down on you from
Hmm.
there, it can get very powerful. So my words to the students out there: be respectful of the environment, not just what's around you, but be respectful of your own health and your own limits. You need to
Hmm.
know what to bring, whether and bring a backpack of water, a hat, sunglasses,
Absolutely. Yep.
suntan lotion, things like that, or some protection of some sort, and a strong SPF, things like that.
Mhm.
Bring that first aid kit, something that you need. Just make sure you're prepared, because even if you think, oh, it's not going to be that bad, and it may not feel that bad, you may suffer very badly the next day if you're not
And
prepared.
it can hit you like that. I mean,
Exactly.
you're fine 1 minute, and the next you're like, no,
Sick.
I'm in bed all day today, like that. Like
Exactly. And that's
uh,
exactly what it was. It was
uh,
terrible.
yeah.
It's
Actually,
unfortunate.
about this whole trip, I was kind of lucky because my parents had been to Tibet before, and my aunt and a couple of my cousins had been. So they were telling me, what it's going to be like. So I was like mentally prepared for it.
Mhm.
Um, and this is exactly the point. Like you're fine 1 day, 1 minute, and the next minute it hits you, and you're not at all okay.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I mean, you have to be, at least mentally, you have to be, you know, prepared for it, willing to accept that this is how it's going to be.
Well, and there's an old GI Joe cartoon at the end line of all the cartoons is, and knowing is half the battle, whenever they're doing that little thing
Hmm.
to try and educate you. And
Hmm.
that's what this is about. This is about the education process and understanding what it is. So all I can say is, regardless of where you're at in terms of the environment, I don't care whether you're underwater in some cases, because again, then we get into a whole nother situation with, dealing with the bends if you're traveling, if you're doing scuba
Hmm.
diving, and having to deal with that. So just be mindful of all the challenges that you have to deal with. Even if you think you can take a shortcut on stuff, please don't. They're out there for a reason. They're it's really important to take care of yourself so you can go on all of these wonderful adventures and be
Hmm.
healthy and enjoy this, rather than have a situation where unfortunately you're sidelined for a period of time.
Yep, absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, so now a little bit of a nicer place. You're in Nancy, and you're going to your last destination. How do you say the last destination? The final
Lhasa.
location?
Lhasa.
Lhasa. Lhasa.
That's the capital of Tibet.
Okay.
That's where the Dalai Lama was originally from.
Okay.
He has his palace over there. That was the first photo you showed. That's called the Potala Palace. That was the original Dalai Lama palace.
Hmm.
Um, and that's the main attraction there. But there are other monasteries. It's like the main city in Tibet. It's the capital of Tibet. So it's a proper city. Like it has everything. You could. That's what. Uh, so that was, and it's also lower elevation. So I think Lhasa is at 11,000 feet.
Oh, so that's much
So by now,
easier
all of
to
us
deal
were
with.
fine. We could roam around the town. We got into groups, our own groups and stuff, and just walked around, and it was perfectly okay by then.
Wonderful. Okay, and so at this point, you are then getting ready for the next trip for you, which is going to be our next discussion at a later time, which is on China. But in terms of this specific vacation, let's talk about some post thoughts on this. It sounds like a really harsh trip, but what were some of the pros of going on a trip like this? What were some of the
Uh,
interesting facts about the trip?
the scenery,
Mhm.
the fact that I got to see Mount Everest, which was a dream of mine.
Yeah,
Um, Actually, I had in Kathmandu, I had taken a flight. The flight also shows you the mountain. There's a like a tourist, you know, ride that take you to the mountain and back.
yeah.
But to see it from the land and looking up at it, it's incredible. And I got lucky, honestly. Like 90% of the time it's behind clouds. So uh, it was just amazing. The scenery is fantastic. The Just the remoteness of it. It's like Antarctica. It's you know it's just beautiful.
It's majestic. And
Hmm.
it's one of those spots that you can actually say, you know what? In my life, I've had the opportunity, well, in your particular life specifically, you've been to two locations that a lot of people get a chance to go to, which are Mount Everest and Antarctica.
Well, I have not
So,
gone to Mount Everest. Scott. I have not.
well, but you were at least within like a couple of miles of it. So it's like, okay, I'm a day away so from it.
Uh,
So it's like, but at least you can see it right over there.
yeah.
So that's kind of cool too. But yeah, just being able to be within proximity of it and enjoy that you were within that realm or in that range of it, and getting a chance to see all these wonderful monasteries.
Hmm.
Those are almost like museums unto themselves.
Yeah.
They're so rich and
and
beautiful and
and there were times when many of us were just sitting outside on the steps and just hearing the chants. The
Mhm.
monks are all chanting in the back, and we were just because a lot of these monasteries are on top of mountains or on a cliffs or something, and the views are nice from there. You can just sit on the steps and just look out, the whole view below you. Uh, and in the background is this chanting going on, so you're just kind of in that mode. It's great.
So it's the sights, it's the sounds. Um, the smells you can leave without, especially if
Yeah,
there's no
yeah,
showering for a few
yeah.
days. But hey, you know what? That's okay too. So things you'd want to be aware of. So if I'm a first time traveler getting ready for this, it sounds like the visa process is a little bit complicated. So you got to be prepared for that. The environment,
Elevation.
the elevation and the environmental challenges that go along with that. Being accepting and understanding of the bathroom situation in some
Hmm.
places as well. So it sounds like that's something that would be aware. Is there anything else I'm leaving out that you want to be
um
prepared for?
uh no, it's just the whole place is really really remote. So any of the like the conveniences, you can't just go out and go to a 7-Eleven, right?
Yeah.
It's not. um, it, you just have to realize that the kind of place you're in and be prepared for that. So
That's
um,
understandable, though. And then in terms of value adds, cost savings, and best practices, it sounds like in this particular case, you did have some cost savings, but it was kind of offset by the stress and the
yes.
challenges that go along with that. So,
And I believe that any other trip that I would have done, uh, I think it would have been more or less the same, honestly. um,
okay.
Now it may not have been so disorganized. Other companies maybe may have been more organized, but uh, at least in the fact of just the logistics of getting everyone through from point A to point B, it's just it's hard for them. I mean,
Yeah.
from their point of view. So and they know that everyone is not going to be in a good mood. They're all going to be sick. They're all have all these problems, and they have to manage all that. So I think from that point of view, it went really well actually in the end.
Excellent. Well, I do appreciate you taking the time to share this with my students. I mean, obviously, Nepal and Tibet are very distant places. So just being able to learn a little bit about them gives us some understanding of what life is like out there and all the wonderful things to see. So again, thank you so much, Ishan, for your time
Thank
and
you.
being able to deal with this. Now, for my students that are out there, if you have any questions or comments, anything you'd like to know more about, you can shoot me a quick email at scott@theprofessortravel.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, please feel free to click the bell icon right above us in order to be notified about when new videos come out. If you haven't already done so, please hit the subscribe button. It certainly does help the channel, and we really do appreciate it. And then, of course, if you like this kind of content and you want to see more of it, give us a like on that as well, and that way we'll be able to produce more of it. If, however, you're listening on the podcast, please feel free to rate us, review us. We really appreciate that. But until our next time, my name is Scott. I am the Professor Travel, and make every day a travel adventure. Take care, everybody. Bye bye now.
Thank you. Bye.